Welcome. This is the Voitrai tutorial for how to set up a quick setup after you get your instance of Voitrai Cloud set up on our servers, and then you have your login. So after you log into the system, this is the screen that you will see. Now for station playlist users, you will have to install a small client that will run on the same machine as where your voice tracks will be located for your local files to play. So whether you're voice tracking in WAV format or MP3 format, you would have the client running on that main automation machine locally in your studio. You would also have your playlist files on that same machine. This will be covered in a separate tutorial how to set up the Voitrai station playlist client that runs on the local machine. This setup will be how to set up your cloud configuration for Voitrai and begin generating voice tracks. So we start with the global configuration. In the global config, you'll notice that there are several fields that you can fill in. In here, we would put in the name of the radio station, the slogan of your radio station. And this is a global prompt that tells the AI LLM models how to access or how to speak as a radio DJ. So this is how we're giving it instructions on how to behave when the AI model writes the scripts. Next, you'll be provided with a key that is unique to your Voitrai Cloud installation. This key needs to match what will later be in the client configuration on your automation computer. Also in here, you'll be able to configure your settings for weather, the auto preload time, which we will get to later in the tutorial, as well as an admin email address to send emails if there are any errors or data missing when tracks are being generated. Once you have this information loaded in your global config, including your OpenAI key and your ElevenLabs key, these two items are critical for the Voitrai system to work. So you must have an ElevenLabs API key and an OpenAI API key. As with any radio station, we need to hire some DJs. So let's do that. We go over to the drop-down menu for prompt commands, and we find DJ voices. This is the table of all the DJ voices you may have loaded in your station. When we want to add a new voice to our station or hire a DJ virtually, we would click Add DJ Voice. Once we are in the Add DJ Voice screen, we can then schedule this voice for an air shift at the time and day that we specify. So in this case, I want to have this voice from Sunday through Saturday, and I want them on the air from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Now, this name field is the name that the DJ will use on the air. So whatever name you put here, that's the name the DJ will use to identify themselves on the air. So if we wanted to call our DJ John Smith, we would simply type John Smith, and every time that voice refers to itself, it will call itself John Smith. However, we're not restricted to using a voice that's named John Smith. We can then go into our ElevenLabs account and choose any voice that is either provided by ElevenLabs, or we may have cloned or added as a professional clone to our account. If the name is available on your account to use in the text-to-speech app, you can also select it from this drop-down menu within Voitrai. But please note, this is only populated after you have put your ElevenLabs API key into the global config. Next, we want to give the DJ a personality. Every DJ needs a little personality. So, in this case, you have full control as the administrator, the program director, the general manager of your radio station. You can identify the personality that you want to give this DJ. So let's say, for instance, this DJ is a bit on the funny side. You are a funny DJ with a great sense of humor. You like to tell dad jokes. Now, we can also add more to this personality. You have a love for chocolate. May sound silly, but these are some of the items you can put into your DJ's personality, and this helps give every break on the station a bit of personality and variety at the same time. If you want this voice to be more of a serious tone, you could change all of this to have it more serious, a news announcer, weatherman, or maybe you're on a rock station. You've got a little bit of swagger and attitude. You can put that into the personality in here. Next, you would need to set the settings for this voice. Now, these settings mirror what you would find in the settings in ElevenLabs. So we have stability. In most cases, you don't want to go too far to the left, anything less than 0.3, and you start to get some lack of stability, we'll say. So we like to keep it around this mid-range, just a little bit less than halfway. Clarity, as you go to the right, the more clarity the voice is going to have while producing the voice track for air. So we can set the clarity to about 82, and then style, this is a wild card. If you want your DJ to have a little more variety, a little spontaneity in the way that they generate the voice track, you can adjust it here. But please keep in mind, there is a distinct difference between the words the DJ uses, the script, and the production of the audio. These are two separate, unrelated models. So one AI model is generating a script while the other is generating the audio. So just understand that the settings you're doing here are only to adjust the quality of the voice and the variety in the voice, not the text or words that voice uses. So with style, if we increase the style, we may get anomalies, unpredictabilities. So I like to keep the style somewhere around 0.25. Next, to improve the quality of the AI voice, we turn on the boost setting. Now, we have the ability to change the model from ElevenLabs, just like you would through their text-to-speech app through their website. In this drop-down menu, you will see that we have Multilingual 2, Flash, Turbo 2.5, Turbo 2, Flash 2. These are all models, and each model has a different purpose and a different value. Keep that in mind. Multilingual 2 may cost you more credits than Flash or Turbo 2.5. Next, we want to keep the level of our audio consistent every time this voice is used. If we notice the voice is a little lower in volume than we'd like, we can adjust this slider to the right. This will normalize the volume to a more acceptable level. If we find that the voice generated by ElevenLabs is too loud, we can adjust it here. The key thing to understand is that this is here to keep the audio consistent going forward. So we'll leave that at about -15. Next, we want to take out those gaps of silence. Often, AI-generated voices will leave unexpected gaps or pauses in what should be an uninterrupted script of information on the radio. For example, if the DJ read the card or talked about the record on the air and mentioned it in a way like 91.9 WBNJ, and that was the Beatles. Obviously, we don't want that on our air. So the silence remover function will then remove those gaps of silence that are in the middle of the audio. So what we want to do is set the silence threshold, and I usually set it about 39. And then how much silence do you want to remove? So what this means is it will remove all silence that is 900 milliseconds or greater. So that way, it's not removing the smaller gaps, but it's removing anything that is 900 milliseconds or greater. Next, the buffer silence, this setting tells it how sharp of an edit or how sharply should it cut the audio. Do we want an abrupt cut of that silence, or do we want more of a slight faded cut to that? This adjustment allows a much smoother edit of removing of the silence. Best setting for this is to have it around 95 to 100. Next, you will want to decide whether or not you are going to include this in regular rotation or exclude from rotation. As you remember from the beginning, we gave this DJ a shift, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Well, we would not want to exclude that from rotation. We would want to leave it in rotation. So once we've completed all of our settings, we can now click Add DJ Voice. Now you can see our voice, John Smith, is in our list. Now please know that you can edit your voices after you've created them. So for instance, if I want to edit Derek Johnson, that's the voice that the name that I've given this DJ. Now this is a DJ that does not have a scheduled shift, therefore the hours are irrelevant. This is for a news and weather announcer. Now I've chosen a professionally cloned voice from ElevenLabs, given in the name of Derek Johnson, set my voice settings, normalize, but let's just say that I want to give this voice a little more volume, or maybe the volume is too high, so I can adjust the normalization right here. Now, since this is a news announcer that I don't want in regular rotation, I can check off Exclude from Rotation. Once complete, click Update DJ Voice. Now you may be wondering, why would I want to exclude it from rotation? We will find in the next section how we can specify a voice for a specific track prompt. But you only need to have one voice set up in your Voitrai install or your Voitrai server to start generating tracks. Our next section to move on to generating actual voice tracks is to have a prompt. Just like talking to an LLM of any shape or size, you need to have a prompt to give it instructions. So we click on track prompts. Now again, I'll back up. Prompt commands, track prompts. Now in here, you can have everything programmed, whether it's a news, a weather, a top of the hour news, talking between two songs. All those can be individual track prompts. For example, on this radio station, the top of the hour is actually a weather forecast. So as you'll see in here, we give it a name. This is an internal name only for internal use. This first box is where we would put an opening or introduction for our voice track. Something to tell the AI model, hey, this is where you start. Next, in the direction box, we need to give this model a direction. What is it going to create? We need to give it the content. We don't leave this up to the AI to generate the content. The main purpose for Voitrai and our slogan, as you may have heard us say before, we are human curated, AI generated. So what that means is we have to provide the AI the right information. And the way we do that is through several placeholders that are built into the Voitrai system. So, for example, in the case of this weather forecast, create a short weather forecast with the following information. So we're giving the AI model instructions. In this particular case, it is pulling in information from the National Weather Service, NOAA, and the entire full forecast for the region I've specified in my global config will be loaded in to this placeholder. So when the information is passed along to the API for the LLM, whether it is OpenAI or Gemini, which you have the option of either or with Voitrai, the entire forecast is then fed to the AI model to have the updated information for it to formulate its weather forecast. Current temperature is also sent over with the data. So we're providing the data to the LLM to write the script for us. Finally, we want to limit the response. We don't want a lot of extra words. We got to get back to the music as quick as possible. So that means we need to tell the model, don't talk as much. So your response must be 55 words or less. So that will tell the system, okay, I need to choose my words wisely and no gabbing on the air. Finally, this last box is a tag box. The tag box is read verbatim. Exactly as it is written in here is exactly how it will be read by the voice model. What's the difference? The first section, this direction section here, is instructions where an AI LLM will write a script. This last box does not go to the LLM to be written and is tacked on to the end of the script after the LLM has written the script. Therefore, you can always have your voice track end with the same closing all the time. Other settings in here are that you can schedule different prompts to fall at different times and days, but have the same ID when called for by your automation system. But for the sake of this quick tutorial on how to get you started, we're going to check all and leave it for all 7 days as well. Next, every prompt needs an ID. This ID will be referenced by your automation system. Since this is a station playlist tutorial, there will be a field in your voice track marker that goes in your log or in your clock or rotation in Station Playlist Creator that will reference this ID. And I'll explain that in a later tutorial. Finally, you do have the option of writing every voice track in verbatim. If you so desire, you would ignore this box and ignore this box and only use this box. As it says here, type all text here if using verbatim method. This is if you want to type out each and every voice track that your station plays. Voitrai is truly designed to be a set it and let it do its thing. I don't want to say set it and forget it mentality, but it is designed to automatically work in the background creating voice tracks so that you as a program director or a general manager or whatever role you have in the station, you can focus on building a better product. So if you so desire, you can make it verbatim, but in most cases, you will be set in AI mode. Finally, if you remember from the previous part of this tutorial, I explained that you can have a voice that's excluded from rotation, but use it elsewhere. And if you remember the example of Derek Johnson, who was not in the rotation, we had him excluded from rotation as a DJ, but we can hit this drop down and choose any of our DJs that are in our list of DJs. So in this case, Derek Johnson. So now, when this prompt is generated of this weather forecast, it will use the voice that's specified for the name Derek Johnson. Finally, once complete, we click Save, and now that prompt is loaded into our system and ready to roll. For Station Playlist, you have the ability to not only generate the tracks and have them synchronized with your computer, but also listen to them and view them here in the system. Now, in Station Playlist, you have the ability to not only produce the tracks and have them synchronized with your automation machine, but you can also access them and listen to them through our Preload VT section. So click on Preload VT. Then, in here, you have a few basic commands. The first part is if you wanted to manually generate voice tracks for a specific hour. If you did not want to have the system running in auto mode, or perhaps you needed to rerun voice tracks for a specific hour after the log had been changed, you may need to manually preload the voice tracks. For that, you can choose the day and the hour that you are choosing to rerun and click Preload Voice Tracks. Now, Voitrai is designed to automatically generate tracks every hour. The time that you specify in your global config, if you remember from our global config, the preload minute, what this means is that it will, at 36 of every hour, automatically load the voice tracks for the next hour so long as scheduler is running. So we can easily hit stop, and now we see it stopped. We can hit scheduler start, and it is running. We can also get a notification of the last time this was run, the last time an auto schedule was run on this station. Next, for Station Playlist users, you can also preview voice tracks that have been created and manually download them to your computer. Keep in mind, though, you do not need to manually download voice tracks to get them into your automation. Voice tracks that are created in our cloud server are automatically downloaded to your automation machine through our client, which we will go over in a separate tutorial. The other thing that is a good benefit from the navigation across the top here is that at any point you can check your ElevenLabs status by clicking ElevenLabs if you want to find information like how many credits you have remaining in your account, and so forth and so on, or how many credits you may have used. Those are the basic settings to get a prompt set up to create voice tracks. Now, the prompts, as I explained, they can be used for a variety of different items. In this case, this one is set to mention a PSA, a public service announcement, a station slogan, station name, the next artist, the song that is coming up. These are all placeholders that can be put into the prompt. So if I wanted this to have an opening like station name. Now, you don't have to memorize all of these commands. They're all made available through this dropdown. So if I want to have the station slogan, I can add that. If I want to say, I tell the model the song that just played was, and then I go in here and I can say previous artist, and let's get the title, previous. Now we've given the instructions back to the LLM model what song just played, so it can incorporate that into its script. There are many different ways that you can add data into your scripting, and we will go more in depth into what each and every one of these items does, including how to add promos, PSAs, topical information, all in our next tutorial. But what you saw here was a basic quick start tutorial to get Voitrai generating tracks for your station playlist station.